The Glencairn Aisle stands just to the south of St Maurs-Glencairn Church in Kilmaurs, East Ayrshire. Its date is uncertain. It's unlikely to be much older than the 1600 Glencairn monument that stands inside. This was created by the master mason David Scougal of Crail and Fife. He'd been commissioned by James Cunningham, the 7th Earl of Glencairn. This is the oldest such monument at Ayrshire. It has Renaissance style with Corinthian columns with medieval motifs, and is very similar to the one dating 1601 from Bargany and Ballantrae. The later ones at Skelmerley, 1639, are entirely Renaissance, and in 1641 the Dunlop Aisle was created for the Reverend Hamilton by his son, the Earl of Clandeboy. The barrel vaulted roof is probably not original. It may have been placed there in 1846, the roof having collapsed, so Alexander Montgomery-Cunningham of Course Hill had it replaced. There must have been more space above it once, because we know there was definitely a chamber above, and the window can still be seen on the south-facing gable. The aisle used to be part of the church, only separated from it perhaps by railings or by a screen. However, in 1838, the northern gable of the aisle became very unstable and had to be taken down. This resulted in the entire aisle being shortened by 6 feet. This can be seen by the fact that the Glencairn monument within does not lie centrally against the east-facing wall. When the roof collapsed sometime in the 1790s, it took parts of the upper structure with it, including some of the finials. Also, the 2 side walls lost a couple of courses of stone. We know that the whetstone was used for sharpening tools by the shoemakers in Kilmaurs. Also, the school used to be housed within the church, and pupils were thought to have damaged the monument, including removing the heads, though fortunately they were not lost. Also, in 1842, a couple of Irish labourers working on the railway broke into the crypt that lies below the monument. The crypt was accessed by a flagstone with 2 metal rings, which is now probably hidden beneath the existing floor. It was last used in 1788, when a Hamilton of Bardowie, who had lived at Kilmaurs Place, and a relative of the Earl's, was buried here. The crypt itself is crudely hewn, which is roughly 8 foot by 8 foot and 4 foot deep. It had an unhewn slope, which allowed the coffins to be slid down. These were not lead lined, so when it was last opened, it was found to have round about 21 skulls present, with the bones all scattered round. These were gathered together and placed in a box, together with a sealed vessel giving details of the restoration works. In 1870, extensive restoration works were carried out on the monument, and some of the stonework certainly dates from that time. It appears to be missing some of the finials, as the existing pair are not a pair. The monument commemorates James, who is seen wearing armour, his Countess Margaret, his 2 sons, William, Master of Glencairn, who became the 8th Earl, and his brother John, together with their sisters, Jean, Mary, Susanna, Anne, Catherine, and Margaret. At one time, the whole monument may have been painted, and there's some signs of it around the statues of the children. The aisles continue to commemorate members of the Cunningham family of Glencairn. The latest dated is Fairley Cunningham of 1971. There's also a plaque here to James, the 14th Earl, who was the great patron of Robert Burns. There are a number of blank squares on the monument that seem to represent the position where there used to be metal rosettes or possibly initials. You can see the damage was done when these were removed. There was an unusually large amount of lettering on panels on the monument. Much of this is now undecipherable, although there are some records of what was written. There's a very clear monogram of Countess Margaret of Glencairn. The Bargany or Kennedy Aisle at Ballantrae appears very similar to the Glencairn monument. It may have been carved with the same master mason. Some of its features may give clues as to what's missing, particularly the finials, from the Glencairn Aisle monument. A number of carved stones have been placed within the aisle for safekeeping. Some may have come from the monument itself, others may have come from the old collegiate church. There are a couple of ancient gravestones, and also a pair of Corinthian-style capitals, which once topped a couple of columns. A rectangular tower once stood nearby until sadly demolished. Its name, however, survives in that of a nearby mansion house. The nearby dovecot, or ducat, is thought to have been a collegiate church building adapted for that purpose. In 1888, extensive work was carried out on the church, including the addition of a tower. At this time, the aisle was once again joined with the church building.